was the clue that Chuppa needed, that, okay, if I'm the best Dondozo player in the world and it can have this kind of success at the moment, then I want to be the one having that success with it. And he is following through on that already to the finals of this tournament and looking to take his second regional championship, be the first person to put his face on the regional champions graphic twice, and this time using Dondozo.
So will Chuppa receive his second regional title and tie Alex Underhill in titles, or will Alex get that third? Let's dive into this matchup and showcase our players for anybody just joining at home here in the finals. Chuppa crossed the fourth, a tri-state player, Toronto regional champion, San Diego finalist back in 2023, the first ever Scarlet and Violet VGC event, NESC top 8 last year, as well as Oceania top 8. Chuppa would not be the first person from Brooklyn to find success in Portland.
Yeah, that San Diego regional final was with Dondozo, so he's not unfamiliar to bringing Dondozo this far into a tournament. And yeah, we see the team there. We've seen it on stream a couple of times. You see the small adjustments from how Dondozo has been played in the past. Now, with the Meteor Beam Power Herb Glamora, they can find, if given a moment, find huge damage onto the opposing team. And then the Ogre Teal Mask. But all of this just to support what is the main core, the Dondozo and the Tatsugiri, who can put out so much damage. I think one of the small, really important adjustments here is the Rocky Helmet on the Dondozo. It, on one layer, can help deal with Urshifu in situations where Urshifu tried to just power through Dondozo, but even more relevant throughout this tournament has been its ability to just break the Focus Sash on Qianpao, pick up that last bit of damage on Qianpao, and that could be very important again in this matchup, as Alex does have a Focus Sash Qianpao.
And Chuppa's opponent, Alex Underhill, a two-time regional champion, as well as all the way back in 2015, the U.S. Nationals top 8 finish. Has not reached the regional finalists since all the way back in 2022, but he doesn't want to finish in second place, wants to get the W here against Chuppa. Dragonite, Entei, Qianpao, that combination, especially when you put it next to Fluttermane, can be so dominant.
Yeah, I mean, this team just provides so much offense and in such varied ways. Lots of priority, lots of different types of offense, and just the right kind of bulk in different ways. Raging Bolt, a very naturally bulky Pokemon. Entei holding that Assault Vest, that means it can play into Fluttermane extremely well. Like I said before, this team feels already at this point a little bit emblematic of Regulation F. These are all Pokemon that are extremely common in the metagame, and they're having a ton of success together.
Yeah, I don't think if you pull up the graphic, I don't think Alex has a Pokemon that's under 20 plus something % of the field here in day 2. So using 6 of the most popular Pokemon in the format right now, and he's going to need to use all of them against Chuppa's Ogerpon. That is the Teal Mask variant, not as popular as Wellspring, but has definitely put in work for Chuppa this weekend.
Yeah, it's been pretty important, but with no Intimidate on the other side for Alex, there's not going to be Defiant triggering it. It is an important way to deal damage into things like the Fluttermane or the Qianpao. I think so much of these Dondozo matchups, especially when it's not a Dondozo that's trying to like create infinite win conditions, right? It's not leftovers in grassy terrain and trying to just be too bulky to beat. It's trying to just take a couple of KOs, almost fight like a normal Pokemon while it's on the field. And so for it to win with that win condition, it needs to have its partners also deal important damage. And so I think in these matchups, whether Chuppa finds early KOs and additional damage before getting Dondozo on the field is going to be so crucial to how the match plays out. When we see that not happen, and instead Dondozo just go down, maybe with Tatsugiri as well, and the rest of Chuppa's Pokemon left on an island, things haven't gone nearly as well.
It's finally time to start the finals here in Portland. We started the weekend with over 500 trainers. We are down to Alex Underhill and Chuppa cross the fourth. Alex having the Fluttermane Qianpao lead compared to Chuppa's side with his Dondozo and Glamora.
Yeah, Alex with the frail offense on the field, and this can be a really delicate position. You don't know where to send your attacks, because if you go into the Glamora slot, that could just become a Tatsugiri and those attacks don't land and Dondozo gets an attack off. But if you go into the Dondozo slot, Dondozo could easily just protect itself and allow a Meteor Beam to go off, and so there's no protects. Ice Spinner landing into Glamora for more than half health.
Yep, that brings it down to a spot where if Alex does double target, especially with the Shadow Ball, it would be more than likely to knock out. And yes, he did go for it. Alex calling Tatsugiri, not swapping in, and gets rewarded for it, where Glamora is taken out before Chuppa can even do anything. Now it's up to Dondozo's Wave Crash, which is a really strong attack, into the Fluttermane for the one-hit KO.
Yeah, surprising to see that Wave Crash pick up when it KO. Maybe Chuppa learning from previous matches that this Fluttermane is not trained the most bulky and is a little bit more vulnerable, and so is able to just pick up a KO with Wave Crash. So we see a trade there. Glamora for Fluttermane. Maybe a very risky play for Alex's side, right? It could have easily been Tatsugiri and 2 failed attacks and just the Flutterman going down for free, but it's not that worst case scenario. Instead, both players can step back, breathe a little bit of relief. They got something out of that turn, even if they did give up something in that turn.
Chien-Pao is now active on both sides of the field, meaning Sword of Ruin is affecting everybody. Essentially, Dragonite doesn't really get hit by the Toxic Debris as a flying type, but he can still pack a heavy punch.
One element of that last turn playing out with both Pokemon attacking is that Alex finds himself once again in the same position. Dondozo can protect, or Tatsugiri can come in. You don't know where to put the damage. It's a very difficult position to play from when you're in Alex's shoes. You just feel like you're taking a risk no matter what you do. The last one didn't pay off in a huge way, didn't get punished in a huge way.
Chien-Pao will protect on Chuppa's end and Dondozo as well, so Chuppa just wants to take this game one slow, like many Dondozo players do. Wants to force Dragonite to lock into an attack and then make your adjustments. The extreme speed is the choice, as well as Sucker Punch failing on Alex's side.
Yeah, so Dragonite now locked into extreme speed. We've seen Chuppa try to take advantage of that before by just using a Ghost Terrestrialization on Chien-Pao to make it invulnerable to that. Sucker Punch coming out as well. Alex just looking for picking up some valuable priority damage onto this team. I think it's going to be really interesting to see where Chuppa goes from here. We saw him take some big risks before, doing things like switching Dondozo into Tatsugiri while doing the Ghost Terrestrialization. But once that play's been done once in front of an audience that must have included Alex, you have to wonder if you're willing to take that risk again. Because if Tatsugiri comes in just to find itself KO'd on the switch in, then life becomes extremely difficult for Chuppa.
All right, here's the turn. Chuppa going for the Tatsugiri switch in. So does Alex get razzle-dazzled and target that Chien-Pao slot, or was he smart enough to expect the Tatsugiri swap in? Commander activating on Dondozo, boosting all of its stats by 2 stages. What does the extreme speed target from Alex's Dragonite? It's going to be really important because every amount of damage is so crucial into Dondozo. He calls it into Dondozo, but look what +2 defense does to a non-Terra extreme speed, essentially taking as much damage from Rocky Helmet as he ditched out. But the Sucker Punch went towards the other slot, meaning Chien-Pao does no damage, and Wave Crash brings Dragonite down low.
Yeah, so once again, a turn where both players are breathing a little bit of relief. It doesn't go disastrously for either. That wasn't an order up super effective into Dragonite. Instead, Wave Crash just lands into a resisted Dragonite and doesn't pick up a KO. Chien-Pao fails a Sucker Punch, maybe looking just to have some insurance against Chien-Pao on the other side, going for a Ghost Terrestrialization and attacking you to at least landed a Sucker Punch into it. And even if it doesn't Terrestrialize, you would at least break the Focus Sash. But neither player gets exactly what they want. There's a little bit of compromise in that last turn, and we move into the next one.
A protect from Dondozo here, meaning no damage should come from this turn. But Alex had 2 Sucker Punches in a row on the Chien-Pao that failed. Kind of feels like Chuppa is regaining momentum here.
Maybe, but this is a pretty vulnerable position for Dondozo. Can't switch, doesn't have a partner to try to attack in the meantime. You have to wonder if just extreme speed and Sucker Punch is enough to pick up a KO on Dondozo. This Dondozo isn't getting leftovers recovery in the meantime. It's just going to stay at the same amount of health.
Oh, that brings it down pretty low with the extreme speed. Looks like it did more than the first one there. And it's Sacred Sword. It's not even Sucker Punch. Chien-Pao is just faster and knocks out the Dondozo thanks to the Rocky Helmet. However, that means that Chien-Pao will, take a little bit of damage there, and Chuppa has to bring his Chien-Pao back in response.
Yeah, so if you're looking for bright spots of your Chuppa, at least that Focus Sash is broken. That gives your Chien-Pao a little bit of advantage. The Dragonite on the other side is extremely low and is locked into extreme speed, meaning that you could have your Chien-Pao go for a defensive Terrestrialization, but you also might need to have your Tatsugiri go for a defensive Terrestrialization. Has the Steel Terrestrialization available that might protect it from an extreme speed, because otherwise that Choice Scarf Tatsugiri cannot protect itself, and you really can't allow this game to simplify into a 1-on-3 with Chien-Pao by itself.
Yeah, the Dragonite has actually gotten a lot of value considering that Chuppa just wanted to protect in front of it and force it to just continue to click one attack. Alex has kind of been totally okay with that, just clicking extreme speed every turn, getting a lot of damage.
Yeah, he continues to pick up valuable damage, just finding the right targets for it. And now forcing a defensive Terrestrialization on Tatsugiri. You never enter a game expecting or wanting to use your Terrestrialization this way, but sometimes the situation calls for it, and now Tatsugiri is a Steel type.
Steel does resist Tatsugiri, or I should say Steel resists the extreme speed, but not when there is a critical hit. And follow-up Sucker Punch means Chuppa's Terra is wasted in game 1. Now it's just the Focus Sash Chien-Pao against 3 Pokemon on Alex's side. This turn, at least he will get a Sacred Sword into the other side to knock out Chien-Pao, but Alex still has Dragonite, who will click Extreme Speed whenever he wants.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not wasted, at least forced 2 attacks to go into that Tatsugiri spot, which bought the time for Chien-Pao to get a KO while staying with its Focus Sash intact. But that did spin to the Terrestrialization, meaning that Chien-Pao cannot become a Ghost type and become immune to Extreme Speed now, so it's vulnerable to Extreme Speed, vulnerable to Thunderclap. It's really difficult to see how it lands all the different attacks that it would need to actually KO both of these Pokemon.
Yeah, you do have a super effective Ice Spinner, but of course the Extreme Speed is just such a strong attack from a choice-banded Dragonite on the other side, so Alex feeling the advantage and wants to pressure this Chien-Pao. Terra Water now resisting Ice Spinner, so that's going to be really crucial for this Raging Bolt because it can no longer really be in threat of getting knocked out from one hit from Chien-Pao.
Yeah, I mean, just Alex but getting further and further ahead, using that defensive Terrestrialization, which you've been able to preserve up to this moment, to make sure that Raging Bolt will need at least 2 hits for Chien-Pao to KO it. With only single target move, that means 3 total hits, 2 into Raging Bolt and 1 into the Dragonite, and there's just no way that's going to happen with Extreme Speed coming as the first thing the moment this Chien-Pao tries to attack.
Yeah, anytime it goes for any attacks, there's the Extreme Speed and Thundercloud. As you're saying, this one should be wrapped up in Alex's favor. Chien-Pao brought down to under half HP, but a Sucker Punch does do some solid damage to let him know how much it would do to Raging Bolt in the following matches, and Chuppa's going to need to make some adjustments because Alex Underhill is 1 game away from becoming our Portland Regional Champion.
Yeah, Alex picks up a win in a pretty well-played game, just puts damage on Dondozo at the right times, takes the right trades, so that then Dondozo felt very vulnerable. The Dragonite kind of proved its worth there, threatening a ton of damage with Extreme Speed and keeping the speed advantage that way. Dondozo always looks a little bit worse when both of your Pokemon are attacking before it, especially on that turn where it goes down, because it seems like Dondozo is maybe trading well when it's taking 2 attacks and responding with an attack, but at some point that shifts and it just takes 2 attacks and goes down, and that's always the moment where it feels like things start to fall apart for Dondozo, and that definitely is what it felt like happened in that game.
That was such a huge turn 1 that Alex was able to predict Chuppa not swapping Tatsugiri in and knocking out the Glamora, and I think that's just something that Chuppa has to be prepared for in following turns. Like, obviously he's made it to this point in the finals, and every single game you have to kind of get your opponent and condition them into positions where they don't want to just double target the other slot, because you always have that risk of swapping. But then Alex actually waving away to the Tatsugiri, that was pretty funny there. So what can Chuppa do in this matchup? Is it still all Dondozo, you know, go for broke with the strategy that brought you here, or do you have to make an adjustment against Alex's, you know, Chien-Pao and Dragonite?
I'm not sure there's the tools there to just abandon Dondozo entirely, and I don't think that Dondozo itself is really the problem. It can provide pretty good value. It still did pick up a KO on the Fluttermane in that last game. Did it before Tatsugiri was in the mouth, but still managed to get that damage down. I think ultimately this game, these 2 teams in this matchup, it comes down to really detailed decisions about what targeting to go after. There's a lot of mind games and a little bit of rock, paper, scissors and what you attack into, not finding your attacks into protects, not finding your attacks going into Tatsugiri as it switches in. And that means everything can shift radically from one game to the next. Alex got the better of those situations in the last game, but Chuppa could easily find himself the beneficiary of them in the next one, without any like seismic shift in strategy, just in the right decisions at the right times.
This should be a really exciting match because obviously Chuppa is, you could argue, the most experienced Dondozo player in the world with how much experience he has playing with Dondozo at the competitive level, the regional and international level. What can he do to stop Alex from taking this regional title away? It is Fluttermane and Ogerpon Wellspring for Alex compared to Chien-Pao and Dondozo yet again for Chuppa.
Yeah, so Chuppa sticking with Dozo next to an attacker. Last time it was Glamora, now Chien-Pao. We've seen this Chien-Pao up against Fluttermane on Colin's side of the field, and it was able to pick up a one-hit KO with Ice Spinner. You have to imagine by how similar the rest of these teams are, those Fluttermanes could be trained pretty similarly. And if that Fluttermane just goes down, it's a really poor position for Alex. We can't allow that to happen. He just protects the Fluttermane to make sure that it isn't so easy for Chuppa.
Oh, but Chien-Pao also protecting on this turn, which means next turn they are both vulnerable to an attack. Dondozo will protect as well, so the only attack that's going to come out on this turn is from Ogerpon Wellspring. Wellspring, going into the Horn Leech, which is just trying to break the Chien-Pao's Focus Sash. So at least Chuppa understands what Alex's motivations and his strategies are after that first turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Chuppa used the double protect to understand what Alex is going to do, but maybe gives up some of his flexibility in protecting one of these Pokemon while attacking with the other. I think this lead from Alex is also just really smart. There's a lot of options that are kind of taken away. You can't easily try to Wave Crash the Flutter Mane. That could just get Follow Me redirected into Ogerpon, but Earthquake is going to be kind of slow to pick up damage against these two Pokemon as well. And then Chien-Pao, it doesn't want to get its Ice Spinner redirected into Ogerpon and just take a Dazzling Gleam in response, so it does leave the field to bring in Tatsugiri, start the real Dondozo mode. But if I'm playing against Dondozo, I always see a little bit of success when I just force Dondozo to immediately commit to the Dondozo mode before any damage is dealt in the match.
Right, because then you still have all of your Pokemon and all of your tools still available on your side to try to stop Dondozo's plan. But that Tatsugiri for now will use its commander ability to boost all of Dondozo's stats by 2 stages, making it really fast and really bulky at the same time. It's time for Chuppa to terrestrialize his Dondozo in this match into a grass type. As water type, you don't want to sit there against potential Raging Bolt in the back, but of course the Horn Leech Ogerpon has in your face right now. There's the Wave Crash into Flutter Mane. It was a one-hit KO last game. It's a one-hit KO yet again.
Yeah, and so kind of makes a little bit of a risky play there, doesn't expect a Follow Me coming through, has the speed from the Tatsugiri, and then kind of an unexpected twist is that actually makes it faster than this Flutter Mane like we saw in the match prior, and so it's able to outspeed and just pick up the KO on Flutter Mane and only take a resisted Horn Leech back in exchange. That ends up turning into an excellent turn for Chuppa.
So it's almost the opposite end of what Alex had to deal with last game of when is the Tatsugiri going to switch in, because Chuppa every turn has to wonder when will Ogerpon click Follow Me with Water Absorb to take my Wave Crash away.
The good news is that the only Pokemon that really pressures Chuppa to go for the Wave Crash is that Flutter Mane. Chien-Pao's not going to go down in one hit anyway, unless it gives it the Rocky Helmet recoil back to itself, and so maybe Chuppa a little bit more willing to play this a bit more slowly, go for Order Up to just get 2-hit KOs into Chien-Pao or Ogerpon, or just Earthquake for some spread damage across the board. Got the really important Wave Crash in that prevented Flutter Mane from ever getting a single attack off.
This is now a grass type on Dondozo, so this Ice Spinner is super effective, but of course the boost to its defenses means it is such an absolute unit on the field. There's the Order Up into Ogerpon, bringing it down relatively low and giving Dondozo an attack increase. Ivy Cudgel is resistant to Dondozo. Even though it's ineffective, it gets the crit, and Dondozo's down.
I think that's extremely bad news for Alex. That critical hit shifts how these KOs play out. If he does not get that critical hit, then on the next turn, he's able to take an Ice Spinner KO and then a Horn Leech into the Tatsugiri. Maybe not for a KO, but pick up some valuable damage into it, make sure it's vulnerable to priority moves in the back. But because that Ivy Cudgel crits and goes through the defense boost, Dondozo just goes down on that turn, and now Dondozo's a little bit done its job. It got the Focus Sash broken on Chien-Pao via the Rocky Helmet. It got the Flutter Mane knocked out. It got a chunk of damage onto the Ogerpon. Now it's up to these other 3 Pokemon. Tatsu fighting on its own, and that Chien-Pao Dragonite combination, which can pump out so much offense. And you don't have to worry about an Extreme Speed immunity anymore. That Flutter Mane is gone. You can kind of just commit to Dragonite Extreme Speed if you want to.
Right, so how Len is explaining it, for those who don't know, the Tatsugiri, if Dondozo is knocked out in the middle of the turn, Tatsugiri will come back onto the battlefield and then be targetable for the following attacks. So sometimes you can actually, anticipate knocking out Dondozo and then going for a super effective attack, or a strong attack at least, into what will become the Tatsugiri slot.
Yeah, and that opportunity kind of robbed from Alex there. It's always when you're playing against Dondozo, one of the things you're looking to angle for, to see if it makes sense to make it happen, to just get kind of an extra KO and simplify it to 2 Pokemon. Not going to happen in this game. There's always trade-offs to that. You don't necessarily want to just have Dragonite and Chien-Pao land on the field right next to each other either. And if you feel like you can just deal with Tatsugiri, this isn't that much worse. But yeah, it's a 3-3 game at this moment. Both players holding one Pokemon unseen by the other. A lot of damage being threatened on the field. But Alex's team is much more chipped than Chuppa's.
Follow Me from Ogerpon Wellspring will redirect attacks away from the Chien-Pao. At least the Extreme Speed is taken away. Ogerpon goes down while redirecting that Extreme Speed, so Chien-Pao gets to stay healthy. It looks like the Draco Meteor does connect. Chuppa was so worried, but it does go through. Special attack at the cost of getting rid of Chien-Pao. Chuppa takes that every time.
There you see the value of that chip that the Dondozo was able to pick up. After KOing the Flutter Mane, it didn't get any super significant one-hit KOs or 50% damage, but it put Ogerpon low enough that the extreme speed was able to KO Ogerpon, and it broke the focus sash on Qianpao, which meant Draco Meteor with this choice scarf on Tatsugiri was able to outspeed and pick up that KO. And those little shifts mean that Chuppa just gets 2 attacks before Alex attacks at all, gets 2 KOs with Alex attacking at all, and is now 3v1 in this game with a decisive advantage. Alex has to concede and move us into a Game 3 of this finals.
This is as exciting as it gets between Chuppa and Alex making it to the Game 3. Both of these trainers having pretty strong victories as well. So you see the 2 different strategies and how they work out. Alex is now the one on the back foot even after the Game 1 victory. He has to make the adjustment. I think you really have to prioritize keeping Fluttermane safe. It's been 2 straight Wave Crash one-hit KOs in this game.
Yeah, but it's 2 straight Wave Crash KOs that then had different results afterwards, right? I think you can see how these games are playing out, how small the decisions are to decide these games. Both players don't have safe options, almost never have safe options. They have to take risks of some sort. Alex has to target something that may be a Tatsugiri or may be a Protect. Chuppa has to go for a Wave Crash that might just get Follow Mead into Ogerpon. But players take these risks, they get them right, they get them wrong, and it's incremental advantages being gained throughout that process that eventually turns into really decisive advantages. Both of these games have ended with really big leads for one player or the other that stem from small advantages starting in the first turn.
This is what we love about high-level VGC from the top trainers in North America. It's always so dramatic. It's always every single turn. The difference between victory and losing is as minuscule as possible. And now going into this Game 3, Alex has to decide, is it the same strategy of Fluttermane and Ogerpon Wellspring? Maybe just try to go for the safe follow me, and even if he clicks other things, you can get punished that way, but at least you know your Fluttermane will not get knocked out all 3 games turn 1.
Yeah, maybe keeping Fluttermane a little more safe. It'd also be interesting to see Dragonite come back to the match. I think it was really impactful in Game 1. It resists Wave Crash and is immune to Earthquake with its base typing, so it can kind of limit Dondozo's options. And also provides extreme speed that can keep a speed advantage on Alex's side. But in that last game, it was left at home for an Ogerpon that while it threatened Follow Me, Follow Me was never actually used at the pivotal moments, and so it didn't provide as much value.
It's all going to be settled here in Game 3 between Alex Underhill and Chuppa across the 4th. Qianpao on both sides, followed up by a Fluttermane for Alex and the Glamora on Chuppa's side.
Yeah, so for the first time, we see Chuppa not lead Dondozo. He's got 2 attackers out on the field against 2 attackers from Alex's side, all very frail Pokemon, but of course focus sashes on both of these Qianpao makes them a little more safe. We've also seen the relationship of the Qianpao and the Fluttermane, where Qianpao can outspeed and just threaten a KO onto the Fluttermane. It's a roll. We've seen it both not KO and KO, but it's not something Alex probably wants to allow happen. But it's not necessarily going to be stopped. The Sucker Punch into Qianpao is just some chip.
And Chuppa's Focus Sash is broken. Dazzling Gleam takes out Qianpao. You're not going to be able to knock out Fluttermane because Qianpao is down here on turn 1. Now it's going to be up to Glamora to do the damage. But the Sludge Bomb goes towards the Qianpao slot instead of Fluttermane.
Yeah, picks up really valuable damage against Qianpao, but this is not the turn 1 that Chuppa was after. Loses the Qianpao without getting really any value out of it. The Sucker Punch coming in there to make sure that the slower Qianpao on the other side goes down without getting an attack off. And Glamora doesn't have the best response to it. It can't do that much damage to Fluttermane on the higher special defense side, but it also pivotally doesn't use the Meteor Beam into Qianpao, so it doesn't put Qianpao at the Focus Sash. That means that Qianpao can actually still land an attack into this Dondozo without KOing itself. So it's very significant that there was only the Sludge Bomb and not the Meteor Beam. And this is the kind of advantage, the one Pokemon up already when Dondozo is forced onto the field, and maybe then Tatsugiri following up to be forced onto the field, and the Dondozo mode committed to, that is the small advantage that stems into a bigger one if you can continue to put pressure onto Dondozo as Chuppa commits to Tatsugiri coming onto the field this turn.
Yeah, it is time for Chuppa with his back against the wall to activate the Commander ability, putting all of his hopes of winning this regional into I would say Dondozo's shoes, but he doesn't wear any shoes in here. He has +2 to all of his stats. No swaps from either of Alex's Pokemon. Remember, the Ogerpon could potentially be in the back. He's got to be aware of that if you are Chuppa. But the Rocky Helmet does some solid damage back to Qianpao. Earthquake is the choice that will be enough to take out Chien Pao, but not enough for the Fluttermane. Alex nodding his head, agreeing with that move, meaning Moonblast goes into that slot, and that's a critical hit, and Dondozo's down!
Yeah, that is a critical hit that is actually very impactful and helpful for Alex to get rid of Dondozo on that turn. The Dondozo's already shown that it's faster than the Fluttermane, so it would have been a problem to deal with on the next turn. And I think there you can see the kinds of small advantages building. If that had been a Meteor Beam into Chien Pao on turn 1, then the Sacred Sword would have KO'd the Chien Pao back, and Dondozo would have been free to just wave crash the Fluttermane and pick up that KO without allowing the Moonblast. But because Chien Pao was not so low, it had to be an Earthquake to make sure that Chien Pao went down and there was damage put on Fluttermane, but not as much damage put on Fluttermane. That allows the Moonblast to go off, that Moonblast KOs Dondozo, and now Chuppa is staring down a 2-3 disadvantage with no Dondozo left. Tatsugiri having to lock into a move at this moment, facing down a Dragonite that he still doesn't know whether it will be a normal type or a Dragon type in the long term. That makes it very difficult for Tatsugiri to lock into a move correctly and choose a Terra correctly.
Yeah, Alex has definitely the Pokemon advantage right now, and his Dragonite is feeling strong. For now, Chuppa will terrestrialize his Tatsugiri. You much rather expect the Dondozo to be the terrestrialization choice in a matchup, but Chuppa does not have that available right now. It will be Terra, Steel, Tatsugiri on his side, compared to Alex deciding to terrestrialize this Dragonite. No longer a Dragon type means Draco Meteor is not super effective anymore, and of course, Extreme Speed is going to do even more damage as you are a normal type now. Fluttermane will protect, meaning Dragonite's the only attack Alex can possibly go for on this turn, and the question is which target does it hit? It's resisted out of the way, and it goes towards Tatsugiri. Still a 2-hit KO regardless of resistance. Muddy Water is not fully accurate, but it looks like it does connect this time around onto Dragonite. Does it get a accuracy drop? No, it doesn't, but it's time for the Meteor Beam and Power Herb combo on Glimmora. Looks like Glimmora is pretty much the last damage that Chuppa has on his side.
Yeah, this Meteor Beam is going to go into Dragonite. It is so crucial for Chuppa that this KO, and it does, evens the game at 2-2 and saves that Tatsugiri from the incoming Extreme Speed that would have just KO'd it, unable to protect itself. Meanwhile, Fluttermane just protects itself is so low that the Scarf Tatsugiri would have just KO'd with Muddy Water, but now that's just delayed to the next turn. The good news is for Alex that when one priority move goes down, another priority move takes its place. That's what's so strong about this composition from Alex is there are just priority moves everywhere. Now you can just Thunderclap. Tatsugiri has a choice card. It can't do anything but attack and take a Thunderclap that KOs Tatsugiri. That means that Fluttermane is now able to attack. It's not going to be outsped and KO'd by a Muddy Water. It can do whatever it would like into the Glimmora at this moment.
There's the Shadow Ball into Glimmora. That's a lot of damage. It hangs on at 1 HP. There's the Mortal Spin, but obviously does not do a lot of damage to either of Alex's Pokemon. Gets the poison, and then Fluttermane can be poisoned at the end of this turn, but Raging Bolt has way more than enough HP to handle this. Electric type Sucker Punch. Who would have thought that'd be a pretty good idea in VGC, because Thunderclap can just finish this off.
Thunderclap can finish this off if Alex doesn't just Spiky Shield for a ton of turns in a row. Glimmora does have the natural speed advantage, I would expect, so if it's not the Thunderclap, it might be able to get an attack off. Meanwhile, he can continue to Spiky Shield
while
accumulating toxic damage. There's definitely no reason for Chuppa to concede this yet. Alex should have it. You know, majority of times we play this in-game, Alex will have it, but it is not over yet. We're going to have to wait and see this happen. This is the downside of those Sucker Punch style moves, is that they are never a sure thing. You can get to the finals of a regional championship, be one attack away from claiming the title and still not be sure of it because it could
Shield,
just
30%! He gets the double Spiky Shield to protect himself. That means that he even called the Thunderbolt. Great job by Alex to not Thunderclap that turn, but it doesn't matter because Chuppa gets that 30% chance, and this Toxic is starting to stack up. It's gonna do a little bit of damage every turn.
Yeah, you have to start to wonder how the Raging Bolt is trained. Can it still take a +1 Sludge Bomb at this moment? Will Alex Thunderclap? It is so close. Thunderclap comes in, it lands!
Priority attack, Glimmora is down! It's a new year, and Alex Underhill is going to start it as the Portland Regional Champion in the Masters Division for the video game.
You can't get more tense than that. Down to the mind games of